Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Swiss. MLB season is officially here. Obviously, not exactly dripping with value for the first couple weeks of the season, and also, I'm still handicapping the NBA, so I don't have time to put full effort into MLB yet, but I'm going to go through a few games in this one. Whenever I don't get through, we'll go through on the live show. Opening day, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Love to see you in the comments if you can make it. But yeah, I think I'm going to go through 3 games in this one. Let's get it.
Welcome to the Swiss. The Swiss. Hey, get the Swiss.
First up, we're talking Angels on the road in Baltimore. Orioles are minus 190 favorites, total sitting at 7.5. On the mound, we got Patrick Sandoval getting the start on opening day for the Angels. Corbin Burns making his debut with the Baltimore Orioles. So let's start out by taking a look at the matchup between Patrick Sandoval and the Orioles lineup. He just pitched against him. When was that? That was in September. They got to him. 7 hits, 4 walks, 4 earned runs. So the last time Baltimore saw Sandoval, they lit him up, and it was kind of recent, back in September, and it makes sense. Orioles last year were a top 10 lineup against left-handed pitching, 8th in WRC+, 11th in isolated power, 10th in OPS. And Sandoval's got disgusting numbers in spring training, a 7.15 ERA, 194 whip. I mean, all signs point to the Orioles just rocking this guy, right? Well, hold on. There seems to be a pretty strong trend forming here when it comes to the Orioles' bats against left-handed pitching. For some reason, they just do not hit lefties at home. Check this out, it's significant. So last year against left-handed pitching, the Orioles were 2nd in WRC+, 4th in isolated power, 2nd in OPS. That was on the road. Legitimate numbers. One of the best lineups against lefties in the MLB on the road. But at home against lefties, 22nd, 25th, and 26th in the same categories. And by the way, that trend goes deeper than just last season. If you look at the last 3 years for Baltimore, numbers against left-handed pitchers at home versus numbers against left-handed pitchers on the road. I mean, in the last 3 years on the road, they're 7th, 11th, and 10th in those 3 categories against left-handed pitching. At home, 23rd, 17th, and 22nd. So we're talking about 3 seasons in a row here where Baltimore's been significantly better hitting left-handed pitching on the road than they have at home. Their matchup against Sandoval in September was on the road in LA. The last time they saw Sandoval at home was back in 2022. He pitched a gem. 6 1/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, just 1 earned run. And with Shohei Ohtani gone on the Dodgers, Sandoval's now the ace of this Angels team. I actually like the matchup. I think it's very possible Sandoval pitches a good game here. On the other side, we got Corbin Burns against the Angels lineup, and obviously a lot of people are excited for this. Baltimore brings in an ace, and they should be. Corbin Burns is the man. But I think they should temper their expectations here. Pitchers that switch leagues tend to struggle a little bit in their first year back. You got Corbin Burns coming from the National League over to the American League. Now with the DH rule evening out on both sides, I don't know if that quite exists anymore. But Corbin Burns, just like Sandoval, wasn't looking great in the spring, and Corbin Burns also historically really doesn't do well on opening day. Last 5 opening days for Corbin Burns, he's got a 4.81 ERA, 1.85 home runs per 9, so he's given up home runs on opening day, and he's lost 3 in a row. 3 years in a row, Corbin Burns has lost on opening day. And look, I know the Angels lineup was really underwhelming last season, but if you remember, they had so many injuries. Mike Trout, Ward, Rendon, O'Hop, all missing extended time. And let's not forget, on July 1st last year, the Angels lineup was sitting at 4th in WRC+, 4th in isolated power, 5th in OPS, and they were even better against right-handed pitching. This Angels lineup got off to a hot start last year, and yeah, Ohtani was a big part of that, but it wasn't all Ohtani. And with Corbin Burns ending his 2023 season with the Brewers on a hot streak, Angels ending 2023 horrendously, I think this is a nice buy low, sell high spot. I think there's some value here on the Angels to get to Corbin Burns. As far as the bullpen battle, I mean, there's really not a discussion here. Baltimore, a top 10 bullpen from last season. Angels, a bottom 10 bullpen from last season. I mean, you can see ERA 7th to 23rd. No question, the Orioles have the huge edge in the bullpen department, but it's definitely worth noting that we've seen some changes here. Their anchor, the best arm in the Orioles pen, Felix Bautista, he's on the IL to start the season. Now, they brought in Kimbrel as his replacement, but we're going to sit here and pretend that Kimbrel's all of a sudden super reliable. We've seen him blow plenty of games. So, yeah, the Orioles did have the better bullpen last year, but to start the season without Bautista, it's definitely a step down from what it was last season. And the Angels made some moves to bolster their bullpen. They traded Matt Moore at the deadline last year, brought him back, signed him in free agency. They also brought in Louis Garcia, Simber, Jose Cisnero, all guys who underperformed last season in comparison to their full career. All three are due for some regression back to the mean. So I think the Angels bullpen is slightly undervalued. I know it's gross, but I took the Angels in this one. I took Angels first 5 money line at plus 148, Angels full game money line at plus 160. I'm in on the Halos. By the way, quick disclaimer for those of you that are new to betting baseball, it's not as simple as just picking who you think is going to cover the spread at an even minus 110 price. You're looking for value here. So I'm betting the Angels at plus 160. We're going to lose a lot of bets like this. I like betting dogs, but at plus 160, all I need to do is hit at 38.5% to break even. So if you're going to bet dogs this MLB season, you need to go in with the proper expectations. You're going to lose a lot of bets, but remember, we're looking for value. So when I say I'm betting the Angels here, it's not that I'm saying, yo, the Angels are going to win this game. It's me saying, I think the Angels have more than a 38% chance to win this game. So therefore, there's value on a bet on the Angels at this price. That's what I'm saying. If you don't understand that, I promise you, bet baseball for a month or two and you will. Next up, we got the Washington Nationals on the road in Cincinnati. Reds are sitting as minus 155 favorites and the total sitting at 7.5. On the mound for the Nats, we got Josiah Gray. He's pitching against Frankie Montas, making his Cincinnati Reds debut. So let's start with the matchup for Josiah Gray here. Coming off the best year of his career. It was kind of quiet, didn't get talked about much because Washington was Washington, but Josiah Gray, 3.91 ERA. The biggest difference was home runs. In 21 and 22, he was allowing 2.3 home runs per 9 innings. Last year, that was nearly cut in half, down to 1.25. Also, he was in the 78th percentile in average exit velocity allowed. He's in for a test, though, to start this season. On the road to Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark, one of the more hitter-friendly ballparks in baseball. Kind of a good news, bad news here for the matchup with Josiah Gray. Good news is that he's on the road, and Josiah Gray has been much better on the road for several years now. You can see numbers from the last 3 seasons. At home, he's got a 5.93 ERA, 2.38 home runs per 9, but on the road in the last 3 years, 3.59 ERA and 1.47 home runs per 9. And look at his 2 career starts against the Cincinnati Reds. The one at home in Washington, 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 3 earned runs. The one on the road at Great American Ballpark, he threw a gem. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, just 1 earned run. Now, the bad news for Josiah Gray in this matchup, though, Cincinnati's most likely going to have 5 lefties in their starting lineup, and Gray has definitely struggled against left-handed bats a lot more so than righties. You can see in the last 3 seasons, WOBA's up against lefties, home runs way up against lefties, expected FIP 4.41 against righties, 5.47 against lefties. But something I want to point out about the Reds lineup, maybe a little bit overvalued here. I mean, they got a lot of young talent, definitely very hyped. They're going to be without TJ Friedl and Matt McClain in this game. Matt McClain led the team in WRC Plus last year. He might be the best player on the team. He probably was last year. And speaking of last year, yeah, they went on that heater. They were scoring all kinds of runs. Everyone was talking about them. They finished the season just 18th in WRC Plus. So despite some rookies playing out of their minds, they really weren't that explosive of a lineup on a full season basis. So despite all this hype on the Cincinnati Reds lineup, I actually think it's a good spot for Josiah Gray to deal here. Now on the other side, we got Frankie Montas pitching against Washington. Not really sure what to expect from Montas this season. I mean, obviously he was a beast in Oakland from 2020 to 2022, but last year, I mean, his numbers fell off a cliff. Yes, he was dealing with an injury, but keep in mind, Oakland's one of the most pitcher-friendly parks, maybe the most pitcher-friendly park in the league. A lot of pitchers have better-looking numbers there. The last time we really saw Frankie Montas pitch was back in 2022. He made 19 starts with Oakland that year, and he was dealing. 3.18 ERA, 2.85 WOBA, 114 WHIP, 3.20 expected FIP. But after he left Oakland in late July, like I said, his production fell off a cliff. The rest of the season, 6.35 ERA, a 154 WHIP, 4.68 expected FIP. And if you really take a look at his 3 seasons with Oakland when he was pitching his best, look at his home away splits. 3.20 ERA, 2.88 WOBA, and a 0.8 home run per 9 at home. All those numbers much higher on the road. Now, a lot of people look at that and be like, oh, he pitches better at home. Some pitchers do. And that's true. Or was he just pitching in Oakland, a super pitcher friendly park? Maybe a combination of both. And to add on to that, this Washington Nationals lineup should have 6 lefties in it for this opener. Look at Frankie Montas' numbers against left-handed bats away from Oakland, even during the span he was with Oakland. 359 WOBA, 1.9 home runs per 9, a 153 whip, 519 FIP. I mean, so even when he was dealing, even when he was at his best, away from Oakland against lefties gave him problems. And speaking of the Nats lineup, yeah, they were pretty awful against right-handed pitching last year, but Gallo, Winker, and Rosario, those are the three pieces they added. All three of those guys have better numbers on the road against right-handed pitching. So I don't know. This might be a sneaky spot for Washington. And when it comes to the bullpen matchup, yeah, the Reds bullpen was better than Washington's bullpen, but by how much? Like, how big is that gap? In expected FIP, Cincinnati was actually 29th, indicating they had some really good luck out of the bullpen last year. And keep in mind, Washington's bullpen numbers are always going to be a bit skewed because they were getting their asses beaten a bunch of games where they would just throw long relievers, their lower end arms out there and just rack up the numbers. So some of Washington's bullpen numbers are a lot worse than they actually are. Their three main arms, Finnegan, Harvey, and Rainey, that's a legitimate top three arms in a bullpen. So I think Washington's bullpen is undervalued. I'm on the Nets here. I took it at plus 130. Give me Washington. Next game. Toronto on the road in Tampa. Looks like the Rays are minus 135 favorites. Total sitting at 7.5. On the mound for Toronto, we got Jose Berrios. On the mound for Tampa, we got Zach Eflin. So let's start with the matchup for Jose Berrios here on the road. Kind of a tough guy to go to read on. Very volatile. There are times where he looks like a Cy Young candidate. There's other times where he looks like he needs to be sent back down for assignment. But you know what? He had a great season overall last year. 3.65 ERA and a 1.19 whip. Obviously, this is going to be a tough matchup for him on the road in Tampa. Rays against right-handed pitching last season, second in WRC+, fifth in isolated power, fourth in OPS. So Tampa, as we know, top 5 lineup against both righties and lefties all season. That being said, the current Rays lineup, maybe not quite as dangerous. Obviously, Franco's gone. They're also dealing with a slew of injuries right now. And most of the guys in the current lineup are stronger against lefties, more so than they are against righties. And perhaps the most important thing, Rays are projected to have 7 right-handed bats in their lineup for this one. Jose Berrios has been much better against right-handed bats. You can see in the last 3 seasons, WOBA way down against righties, home runs per 9, 1.7 against lefties, down to 0.8 versus righties, whip down a full 3/10. I mean, Berrios has much better numbers against right-handed bats, and the Rays are probably going to have 7 righties in the lineup. And on top of that, Berrios has great numbers against Tampa. Against their current lineup through 96 career plate appearances, they got just a 485 OPS against Berrios. And through 6 matchups against Tampa as a member of the Blue Jays, Berrios has a 3.34 ERA, a 1.24 whip, allowing 2 or less earned runs in 5 of those 6 starts and 1 or less earned run in 4 of those 6 starts. So I think all signs point to Berrios being in a great spot to pitch a great game here. On the other side, we got Zach Eflin, and obviously Eflin coming off the best year of his career. He was great last year. 3.50 ERA, a 1.02 whip. His only matchup against Toronto last season, he was dealing 7 innings, 1 run, 6 hits, 2 walks. I will say though, in that game, he had 0 strikeouts, and his expected FIP was 5.06, indicating that he had some good luck, but I would never look at a metric like expected FIP for one game. That's more of a metric you use over a large sample size. The fact that this game's being played at home at the Trop is huge for Eflin. I mean, Eflin's been a beast at home for multiple years now, but last year especially. Here's his numbers from his last 3 years. At home, a 2.89 ERA, 2.73 WOBA, and a 1.02 whip. You can see the numbers on the road significantly worse than that. So yeah, Eflin at home, definitely a wagon last year. And this Toronto Blue Jays lineup really took a step backwards last season. They were one of the best lineups in baseball against right-handed pitching in 2022. Second in WRC+, second in OPS, 7th in isolated power. But last year, they dropped to 8th, 11th, and 14th. And since that 2022 season, they've lost a lot of names out of that lineup. Chapman just left. Gurriel. Teoscar Hernandez left before last season. They did bring in Justin Turner and IKF, but still, that 2022 Blue Jays lineup that was one of the best in baseball against righties seems like a thing of the past. So as much as I like the matchup for Berrios pitching against the Rays lineup, I also really like the matchup for Eflin pitching against Toronto's lineup as well. Bullpen matchup, these two teams pretty even. Toronto top 10 bullpen, Tampa probably a top 10 bullpen, maybe just out of it last year. That being said, no Eric Swanson, no Jordan Romano for the Blue Jays. Probably the 2 best arms in that bullpen, or 2 of the 3 best arms, I should say. So normally I would give the bullpen edge to Toronto here, but with those 2 injuries, I'd give the bullpen edge to Tampa, which means I think the Rays probably have the edge here. I'd lean Tampa as far as a side, but honestly, let's just take the under. I like the matchup for both starting pitchers. Maybe a first 5 under. It's down at 4 though. So I'm just going to take the full game under at 7.5. Lock it in. Sorry I was only able to get through 3 games. I mean, this weekend's crazy for me. You got the Sweet 16. You got NBA on. You got opening day. There's just a lot going on in the office. Fast forward a few weeks when NBA slows down. We'll be putting out videos where we go through almost every single game nightly. So we'll get there. Also, if you watch this channel, you know I'm a big data guy. We have no data. Season starting, so I have nothing to work with here. Probably not the best time to be throwing down big bets, but hey, to each their own. Fast forward a few weeks, we'll really get into the groove of it. Pumped the MLB season is starting. Hopefully you can make the live stream, 10:30 a.m. We'll go through every single game. Me, Toast, Prop Beaver, and the commish. Going through every single game. That's at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Make some final bets. I'll see you there. If you want my top bets, parlays of the day, or you'd like to join our Discord, head over to KyleKirms.com. The information is right there on the homepage. Let's have ourselves a good Thursday. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.